I just spent the last 45 minutes or so laying out the astrology, which I do every time before I do one of these talks. And I have to say, the astrology this week is a doozy. We have all of the personal planets, that's Sun, Mars, Venus, and Mercury. And I'm not even tracking the moon. The moon moves so quickly and it's so emotional that in these talks, I don't really talk so much about the moon unless it's a full moon or a new moon, because the moon is like just moving so fast. It would be like trying to see fish in the water of a really fast moving river. Like, what's the point? Because even if you see a fish, it's going to be gone before you know it. So, Sun, Mars, Venus, Mercury are going through it this week. Okay. So that means that you might feel as if you are going through something as well, going through many things. And last week we had the beginnings of what we are going to start seeing as the new reality for 2026. As we pass through that new moon portal with all of those planets in Capricorn, we start to really see, oh, well, these are some of the things that I finally understand and I need to take responsibility for in my life in order to create what is coming, in order to at least have a useful role in what is coming. So think about last week and what were you working with? What were you dealing with? What was up in your field of awareness? That has become pretty clear. That's going to be part of my mission moving forward. That's going to be it. I'm Natha Perkins of Electra Astrology. I'm an evolutionary astrologer. If you like my style, you can find more of my work at electraastrology.com. And I also release these Path Ahead weekly forecasts every week on Monday on YouTube and on the podcast Star Narrative. So if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're listening in the podcast, make sure that you're following the show. My astrology style is a little bit psychological, a little bit spiritual, and a lot astrological. So the last few weeks, I have not even been showing you the charts. And again, I'm not going to do that. I think I'm done with that for now. One of the things that I've been noticing as I've been tracking how all of this astrological energy is coming in for me is all of the focus on all of the things, all of the busyness, the ways that we are all required to show up if we want something in return. If you want to be good, here's what you do. If you want to be approved of, here's what you do. If you want to be liked, here's what you do. If you want to make money, here's what you do. If you want to be beautiful, here's what you do. Think of it. We're all really conditioned to almost robotically do what we think we need to do in order to get the results we need. And the South Node in Virgo has been slamming us hard against those ideas because we're seeing that there's not so much to do. None of that really matters. And you guys, I've been going on and on about this for at least the last year. I talk about these nodes, North Node Pisces, South Node Virgo, a lot in my Substack. So if you want to read a written version, a little bit more introspective version of astrology, you can find me there. But like I said, do I need to show the charts as I'm talking about astrology? No. And hopefully we're also learning to listen to those messages that we get about why are we so busy doing all of the things that we think we need to do if in reality we don't need to do them. North Node Pisces is really teaching us a lot about sitting back and just allowing things to be as they are, that hopping into the flow and allowing yourself to be carried. It's like if you've ever been to a lazy river, then you hop on your inner tube and you just float down the current of the river. You're not going to doggy paddle your way the wrong way. You're going to be bumping into everybody else on the lazy river. You're going to be annoying them. And what's the point? This is the lazy river of life where we are all being encouraged to just jump in and allow the current to take us where it needs to take us without fighting the flow so hard. So you might have noticed social media trending right now, the year 2016. Lots of people posting pictures about what their 2016 was like, how far they've come, what was going on, etc. And I've seen a few people explain why 2016 is trending now. Some of it feels very elaborate and far-fetched and whatever. I don't even think it matters. One thing that was happening astrologically in 2016 was that the nodes were flipped. South Node was in Pisces, so we were being confronted with all of our coping mechanisms and our red flags and our rose-colored glasses, right? Because hopping into the flow sometimes you might put your rose-colored glasses on and say, "Wee, this is fine. I think it's going to be okay." We don't want to go down that side of the lazy river. And the North Node in Virgo was teaching us how to stand up for what we wanted, how to direct our focus, use our energy wisely. So there is something this year that is connected to that because we're doing the opposite side of the lesson. But it started me thinking about 2016, and 2016 for me was not a real stellar year. We'll put it that way. There were many things that went down that year that I, in hindsight, just wasn't that excited about. And if I was going to do it again, I would absolutely make different choices. I shared in a Substack post that this marks my 10 years of sobriety. So I actually got sober in 2016. And anybody who has gotten sober knows that the first year, there's a lot that comes up that has been unaddressed from the past. So it can be tricky in that respect. And there's also maybe secondary addictions that start to show up that are like, oh, well, if you're not drinking alcohol anymore, how about you eat tons of sugar because you're addicted to sugar as well? Or how about you do this other thing, go shopping a bunch, do your retail therapy, do your gossiping, whatever it is. So we all know that within the first year of sobriety, you're usually confronted with things that you need to get sober from. So 2016 for me, not my favorite year, not the best year. Although still full of some really cool memories. I did some really cool stuff with my kids that year. I was really enjoying looking at the pictures of them from that year. They were so cute and so little. Anyway, this brings me to my story. I ran into an old friend, have not spoken to them since 2016. And part of why I really wasn't in contact with them, it wasn't because there was anything specific that happened. There wasn't a big explosion or what have you, but I just felt like I was overwhelmed with what was happening in 2016. It just was a very hard year for me, like I said, and not speaking for 10 years, not seeing each other for 10 years. And we, bam, run into each other yesterday out of the blue. And you could tell we were both energetically kind of awkward about it. Neither one of us really knew what to say. There was all of these things that had happened in the field of the people that we knew in common. And we didn't really know how to approach that. And we didn't really know how to connect. And we did okay. The interaction started and then it ended. And in the meantime, I've been thinking about it a lot and how we have these things that we hold on to about ourselves, these areas where we criticize ourselves and we give ourselves a very hard time and we give other people a really hard time. And so this brings me into some of this Capricorn energy that we've been under. We just had this new moon in Capricorn. We have had a Capricorn stellium, which this week, when I say the astrology is a doozy, we're watching all of the Capricorn planets, which include Mars, Mercury, Moon, Sun, all moving into Aquarius. We already have Venus and Pluto and the asteroid Vesta in Aquarius. So we're making a transition now from a heavy Capricorn energy into a heavy Aquarius energy. Both of these are Saturn ruled signs. So with Saturn, Saturn is the heavy. It's the inner critic energy. It's the one that says, hey, you made a mistake. You messed this up. Here's what you need to do to rectify the situation. And I thought, wow, how perfect that I'm running into this person who, unbeknownst to them, I'm sure, is very loaded in my mind because they were there in a very chaotic year. And it was during that chaotic year that a bunch of stuff happened. I basically cut out a ton of people. Didn't want to have to deal with their judgment. I didn't want to have to explain anything. I didn't want to have to talk about it. Okay, so snip, snip. Okay, so now, 10 years later, I'm in a completely different place. At this point, I have really been working on that Saturn energy that is personal, that says, am I acting in accordance with my own morals, values, and ethics? And the answer is yes, absolutely. So these questions, and this might be coming up for you too, these Capricorn questions of what are my morals, values, and ethics? What are they now versus what were they in 2016? Because those also fall under the realm of Virgo. So we're looking at South Node in Virgo now, North Node in Virgo then. Virgo also has a way of holding us to standards, but we're trying to decide, like, are these my standards? Or are these the standards of society? It doesn't really matter, really. We're beholden to a certain kind of standards under a society, and we have rules for a reason. We don't want to break them. We can't just go into anarchy. And yet we also understand that sometimes the rules of a society, or even the rules of our own internal guidance system, our own inner critic, sometimes need to be re-evaluated and reworked. Okay, so here I am, post running into this friend and thinking, wow, I feel a lot of the old shame rushing in, and the thinking like, wow, I wonder what they think about me, and wonder what their storyline is about me. And I know what my storyline was about them. And is that even true? Like, is my storyline about me back then even true? It's definitely not true anymore. So you might have had a similar situation, or a few of them this past week, where you've been looking at yourself and saying, wow, I've come a long way. And also, I see how easy it is for those old storylines, those old versions of me, or that old self criticism to just come creeping right back in the door. And as we watch all of these planets move into Aquarius, we know that Aquarius is the rules and regulations, but the need to change them, the need to reinvent them or reassess them. And so here I am thinking, I bet they think I'm such a train wreck. Like, I wonder what they thought about me over the years. I wonder what they know, all of this stuff. And I realized it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what somebody thinks about me from the past, because they haven't been along for this ride. They don't know me. And I've definitely been a person that's worked on myself a lot. I have always worked to see my own shortcomings and tried to make them better, tried to improve them. And I think that most of us on many levels are trying to do that. So think back to your life in 2016 and then compare and contrast it to now. How far you've come, who you've become, how you have lived up to your own standards, hopefully, and the places where you still need a little bit of work. Because now in 2026 is when things begin to pick up the pace. All of this slowdown that I've been talking about over the past few years, but certainly the last 6 months, now we start to move into action. So we had that new moon in Capricorn, which was where we begin to get the little tendrils of like, oh, so what needs to happen? Okay, well, I guess that's what I'm going to do. So this week, which is, by the way, the week of January 19th through the 25th, let's talk about the sun. Sun is going to enter Aquarius, but before it does that, it's going to make a sextile with Neptune. So the sun, that's who you are. That's your heart. That is your connection to your heart. And I hope that you have a good connection to your heart. And what I mean by that is that you're tuned into your heart. If you've had a reading with me over the past week, you've absolutely heard me talk about tuning into your heart, because the heart has the wisdom. The heart's not going to lie to you. The heart is not all about love and joy and peace and, oh, this feels so good. Sometimes the heart is like, ouch, I feel hurt. I feel sad. I feel grief. I feel resentment. And great, the heart is giving you the pure information. The heart is also what brings us into a deeper contact with who we are. It's very easy for us to get confused about who we are because of our conditioning. Our parents told us this is who you are. Your culture says this is who you are. Your religion, your identity with your country, with your government, with the people that you break bread with your people of like mind and groups, political, whatever. They all say this is who you are and this is who you need to be in case you're not. That's an Aquarius thing, right? Aquarius says you have to fit in with us. You better conform or else you're going to be on the outs. And we're like, but I don't want to be on the outs. Like, I want to be accepted. I want to be loved, and I want to be safe. But sometimes I don't want to really be associated with this group or this belief system or this idea. So I have to rebel. And in my rebelling, I have to face being cast out. So Aquarius brings us this energy of, am I a part of the group or am I kicked out of the group? Am I listening to my heart? And if I'm listening to my heart, sometimes my heart says, you align with this. And sometimes it says, you don't align with this. By the way, I have a 70 video series on all of the sun signs. It's under the playlist on YouTube, Astrology for Awakening. You can also find them on the podcast, but they're not as well organized there. but you can always put Aquarius into the search. But I have 4 or 5 episodes on the energy of Aquarius, and they're all really interesting, covering how Aquarius shows up for you in your life, how you may manage all of the stuff that goes along with Aquarius. So those are always a really good resource for you if you want to dive a little bit deeper into how all of this impacts you personally. So all through Aquarius season, we're going to be faced with those questions of, if I'm tuned into my heart and I am out of alignment with something out there, do I have the courage, the bravery? Can I have independence from what other people think and from what the group thinks and from the need to conform? Can I individuate from that? So the sun in Capricorn is going to make this harmonious connection to Neptune, which is some sort of spiritual download, some sort of spiritual, that's right, I do remember who I am. And I would rather honor myself and honor my connection to my higher power than get caught up in what all of the people around me want. Then the sun moves into Aquarius, and we begin to really work with those Aquarius themes, which are about, I need independence. I need to be unique. I need to have my own sense of what is right and what is wrong, independent of what everybody else thinks is right or wrong. And then, bam, sun conjuncts Pluto. Pluto asks us to go deep. Pluto is not an easy energy to hit. This week, the sun might bring up some uncomfortable truths for you. And me running into my friend and having to think back to what a train wreck of a year 2016 was for me, and so many bad decisions that I made, and just not being present. I wasn't in my own present mind. It was messy. Okay, we'll just put it that way. And so my sun conjunct Pluto moment, because these things don't happen like on the day. We have these astrological transits and they kind of come in like the tide and then they leave like the tide. So it's a week or so period where we're feeling it. So my sun conjunct Pluto moment was having to face the version of me in 2016 that it was messy, and having to also say, it's okay, I forgive myself. If I had not had that year, I certainly wouldn't be where I am now. And the truth is that in order for me to help you be able to hold the shadow side of so many of my clients that I work with, in order for me to be able to do that without judgment, believe me, I've made plenty of mistakes of my own. I've really had to walk through my own fire, which makes me so much more equipped for being exactly where I sit right now. So I'm grateful, and I have had to face shadow over the last few days. And my guess is that you're also going to have to face some shadow this week if you're willing to really tune into your heart and say, okay, this is me. This is where I've been. This is where I am now. And hopefully this is where I'm headed, because we're getting the downloads on where we're headed. And it's beginning now, and it's going to continue through the whole year. So Mars, let's talk about Mars. Mars is our warrior. Mars is our energy, our action taker, our decision maker, our boundaries, our anger, our power, our strength. And Mars in Capricorn, where it's very strong, because Capricorn says, if you follow the rules, success is coming for you. If you make a mistake, you must solve the mistake and learn from it, and then success is coming for you. So Mars in Capricorn, making a sextile to Saturn. Okay, this is like having a meeting with the advisor, and the advisor is saying, are you in integrity? Are you using your morals? Do you know what your values are? And you're saying yes, yes, yes. And Saturn says, great, then you are ensured success. Mars then has to make a trine to Uranus. Uranus says, are you willing to do it a little bit differently? Are you willing to get some interesting input that may change your course? And if you say yes, Uranus says, wonderful, you are assured success. Mars then makes a sextile with Neptune. And Neptune says, are you willing to zoom out and allow your higher power to guide you? Are you willing to hop into that lazy river and go with the flow? And if your Mars says yes, then Neptune says, great, success is assured. You can move ahead. Okay. And then Mars enters Aquarius. So your internal warrior, the part of you that is working on better boundaries or different boundaries, part of you that is working with your anger, trying to understand Where does this anger come from? Do I have anger? What's an appropriate way to work with the anger? Is it okay to be angry? Can I be angry without exploding on somebody? Can I say no? Can I say yes? Like that part of you is going to be meeting with all the teachers this week. And the teachers are saying, here's what you need to do. Here are the guidelines for how to work with your boundaries. If you are willing to do what we are telling you to do, and this will come through your circumstances, your situations, your relationships, the things that are occurring to you in your mind. That's how these planetary energies come in to guide you through your circumstances. If you are willing to work with all of that, listen to the advice, then you will move forward with success. And Mars in Aquarius is all about, again, can you have independence from all of the things that are making you conform? All of the things that are like, you're bad if you are angry. You are not allowed to say no. You have to make the right decision or else. So your heart and now your warrior have become a part of this conversation this week. Now we go into Venus. And Venus is your divine feminine. Venus is the one that is about tuning in, listening, understanding what is truly desired, the building of abundance. So your relationship to money, to self-worth, to love, to pleasure. And Venus comes in already in Aquarius and makes a conjunction to Pluto. That which is important to you, that which feels like it's worth something. I want that. I want more of that. I'm not willing to give that up. I'm willing to give something in return for this thing that I want. Bam, hits Pluto, the shadow. Something that I've noticed really loudly over the past few years, Venus, which also rules vanity, and vanity is one of the 7 deadly sins. I have noticed how strong vanity is amongst so many people. If you scroll through social media and you see all of these women and girls and men too, just posing, just admiring themselves in their mirrors and making sure that they're so beautiful and their bodies are so perfect and their makeup is so perfect. And it's all of this admiration of self. And for what? Like, what's the point of admiration of self? What is that myth about Narcissus who just stares at himself in the river all day because he just finds himself so absolutely beautiful? Well, it doesn't end well for him. So something that we can all look at, and it might show up this way, it might show up with something to do with money, what have you, is the emptiness of valuing something that is fleeting, or the emptiness of valuing something that doesn't really give anything back. It doesn't really build abundance. You know, when we are, let's just say we're out in the garden and we're sweating and we're getting dirty and we're turning the dirt over and we're planting the seeds, we are creating abundance and it's going to give us something back. It's going to grow flowers and fruits. But staring at ourselves in a mirror and admiring our hair or criticizing our wrinkles is emptiness. There's no reason for it. And so Venus in Aquarius makes me think of that, the emptiness of humanity, the emptiness of a culture that places so much emphasis on beauty. We're going to see Pluto in Aquarius for the next 19 years or so. And so this might be something that is meaningful to you. It might not be, it might show up in other ways, but this is what I see this particular month as we're watching Venus come in and make a conjunction to Pluto. One more thing I want to say about Venus this week. Venus makes a quincunx with the South Node. That's similar energy. Venus in relationship to the stuff about Virgo that we're getting rid of, all of the time wasters, the things that don't matter, the perfectionism, the wanting to get the gold star, the wanting to get the straight A, the wanting to get the accolades. So look at those parts of yourself that say, if I am perfect enough, then people will love me. Then I'll be okay. Then I'll have self-confidence. And challenge it, because the truth is, if you are giving your time and energy to anything at all that isn't giving back to you, you know, that is Virgo in its shadow, is I am an indentured servant to the approval from others. I work and work and I want others to tell me how good I am, that's always a hotbed for growing resentment because usually people don't really appreciate what we do for them. So with Virgo, we're looking at what is giving back to me. Am I working for a charity that I'm giving my time and energy and money to because I want people to think that I'm a good person? Or am I working for a charity that I'm giving my time, energy, and money to because it makes me feel good? It makes me feel like I'm doing what I can do. And obviously, we want to have the latter, right? Venus is going to ask you some of those questions too. Are you giving your time, energy, focus, dedication? Are you prioritizing something that doesn't give back to you? And if you are, why? Maybe don't do that anymore. Maybe change your path and start investing in something that is going to support you in some way, not in a selfish, narcissistic way, but like, hey, I love to help because it feels good to me. All right, so now let's move on to Mercury. This is a huge week, right? This is a busy week. Mercury is your mind and how you process. Now, Mercury is making the most connections of anything. Mercury is going to connect harmoniously with Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. Okay, so let's stop there. Saturn, teacher of ethics, responsibility, doing the right thing. So the mind always wants to take us on adventures into the past or into the future. The mind loves to stop and gossip a little bit, misperceive a little bit, overthink a little bit. But Mercury in Capricorn, as it will be, as it's connecting to Saturn, says, don't do that. Don't waste your brain power doing something that is not going to support your cause, that is not going to be morally valuable or ethically valuable to you. Now, in a trine to Uranus, Uranus is the teacher that says, you got to change it up. Can't keep doing things the same old way. You have to be willing to break a few rules in order to bring improvement. So the way that you think, the way that you communicate, the things that you get very attached to even believing are true are up for some freshness to come in. So we're not trusting our minds very much this week unless our minds are feeling potent. Like, I know that this is right and true. I know that this is what logically makes sense. I know that this is where the change needs to happen. Okay, now we go into the sextile to Neptune. Neptune is about the spiritual guidance. So taking the human part out of the brain, which is things should be like this. I already know this because I've already done this. This is how I want it to be. And saying, all right, higher power, God, spirit, what's happening? Show me. Show me where to go. Show me, guide me. How should I be looking at this instead? Mercury then enters Aquarius. So again, bringing in this energy of connection. Mercury is a relational planet and Aquarius is a relational sign. This is the relationship to other people. How do I use my mind to connect with other people, hopefully in a positive way? Now, right off the bat, it's going to meet up with the sun. So when Mercury and the sun meet, we usually have epiphanies. We get a lot of information, although they don't happen right then. This is a cazimi, and so we have to wait for Mercury to pass the sun. So the sun, our heart, the king of the kingdom, connecting in with Mercury, the mind, the messenger. What is Mercury here to tell our heart about? What is Mercury trying to communicate to us? Well, we're not going to really get that final answer until after Mercury has cleared the sun. Sun is too bright. And then Mercury moves in to make a conjunction with Pluto. So we have the sun conjunct Pluto, we have Venus conjunct Pluto, and we have Mercury conjunct Pluto this week. So that's a lot. It's a lot of deep shadow work, a lot of coming to terms with some of our shadow behaviors, the way that we manipulate to get something that we want instead of just asking outright, the places where we blame other people for our problems, because it's easier to blame somebody else and be the victim than it is to take responsibility. The places where we perpetrate our anger on somebody else, where we are making them feel less than. We are disempowering them. Even the places where we come in and want to save people. So, victim, perpetrator, savior. Be looking for where those three things show up in your life. I would say all three are going to be dysfunctional. So, our shadow, the places where we get into unhealthy attachments, where we want to control, we want to be the powerful one, but we're not controlling from a place of power, we're controlling from a place of manipulation. Pluto shows us all the stuff that's not so pretty about us. So again, me looking back into 2026 and saying, ugh, that was not a year that I'm proud of. That is a year that I would like to have a do-over on, please. And I can't, but what I can do is continue to look at my own stuff, which I've done all these years for 10 years. And this is my 10-year sober anniversary. So you can believe that I have really been dedicating myself to looking at all of those Plutonian things within me that are dysfunctional, but looking at them through the lens of sobriety, which is where we have to take accountability. So there's something this week about really looking at these things with some sobriety, with some truth, with some loving compassion. Like, yeah, I may have some issues, or I might have had some issues, and that's okay. My goal is to overcome them so that instead of being a victim, a perpetrator, or even a savior, I am neutral. I am aware. I am self aware. I am watching. I am tuning in. I'm not going into my inner critic story. I'm not letting my mind run the show. I'm not disconnected from my heart. I am right here, holding steady in the present moment. Okay, so present moment week. Now, Mercury is going to make a conjunction with Vesta right after Pluto, and Vesta is the temple. So going into the temple, going into a space of silence and stillness within your own system, which is also the present moment, which is also steadiness, not getting spun out. And then Mercury also makes that same quincunx to the South Node, letting go of all the things we think about that aren't perfect, all the ways that our brain tries to make things perfect, make other people perfect, judge ourselves, judge other people. So take a deep breath. I need to take a deep breath and just tune in right now, because you're going to want to be doing this all week, all month, all year, tuning in. A lot of information coming in right now for you to help you make sense of what is next. We're entering a whole new era this week, and we're really going to start to feel it in February and then in May, when the planets start changing signs for the next few years. All right. Well, I hope this was helpful, and I will see you all next week.